Welcome back to the Boolean in Java Part 2. We're going to walk through the program and make this game work. Again, if you're just getting here, we're setting up the main method. We got the game setup method, which we're calling first inside this if condition. So this method is returning a Boolean. And then down here, we're going to call this other method, and I'll tell you all about it once we get there. Okay, let's go to the game setup. Remember, game setup matches up with this method right here. You can see right here we got public static Boolean. Hey, look at that, static. Why in the world are we using static? I wish I knew. And look at that, we use static right there too. So confusing. Okay, maybe if you went to the internet you could find out why. Okay, you probably thought I was going to give you all the answers in this video. So, game setup, it's returning a Boolean value right here, okay? This method is returning a Boolean. First thing we got here are a couple of variables that are local to the game setup. We have ready to play and legit entry, okay? And what we'll do is we are going to use these to test out some certain conditions. I'll show you where they're at. Right here, we go ahead and take our input 1 and we use the scanner constructor and we pass it in system.in. So now input 1 will be able to get information into it. We'll print out these two lines right here. Welcome to the random number game. Enter your name, and here the user will enter their name. Okay, using input 1 dot next with the parentheses. This will allow you to enter in a value into name right here. If you forgot, name was a string value from at the top. So input 1 dot next will enter information in there. Next we go down to the print line, enter your age, and here we do something a little bit different. You might not have ever seen this before, especially if you're new to programming. We have a do while loop, and inside of our do while loop we have something called try and catch. Now if you remember correctly, right here we're telling them to enter their age. Here we're going to use the input 1 scanner and use this method called nextInt. It's going to be expecting an integer value to be inputted through the console into this variable called age right here. Okay, so it's expecting an integer. Java wants an integer. It loves integers because you're using nextInt, and it's thinking that it's going to put an integer in the age. Right here, if they do in fact pass an integer into age, the next line of code will set legit entry to true. That means legit entry is now true. Now if they don't pass an integer value into age, say they type in the letter R and put it into age, it's going to throw an error into the program. And here is where the magic of input mismatch exception comes in. If you remember, we use this package right here, input mismatch exception, right there at the very top. We use that package in order for us to be able to use this right here, where we're going to catch the input mismatch exception error, and we get a variable here, ex. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll tell it to print out there's an error with your entry. We set legit entry to false. We tell them to enter their age again, and then right here we say input 1 next line, so that way it clears out the line. And then while, notice we end the code right here, while legit entry is equal to false, I should put a space there, while legit entry is false, okay, we set legit entry to false at the very beginning of the program. Okay, while that's false, we're going to keep doing this over and over again. So this code gets kicked out. This is not true, or excuse me, while this is true, while legit entry is, it's true that it's false, it's going to come back up here to try. We're going to try this again. And as long as we keep getting some sort of error in the entry, we're going to keep trying this over and over again. And once it does work, we put legit entry to true, and legit entry is no longer equal to false, so this while loop stops, and we're able to move down here to the next line, which will be a system.out print line that asks how many rounds do you want to play. Now you notice right here I have an extension listed. Okay, you're going to put your own try catch block right here for this particular section where we're asking them how many rounds they want to play. Now you might be asking yourself, how come up here when we asked them to enter their name we didn't put it? Okay, it's because they're entering in a string value, and strings can take numbers inside of them because we're not going to use those for calculations. Now granted, I don't know too many people with numbers as names, but you never know. So we're just going to let that kind of happen right now. Okay, we're not super picky. Okay, where was I?
Boolean.
All right, so there's your extension, getting the number of rounds from the user. And down here we have another while loop, except we don't have a do with this one. This one's just a pure while loop. Our while loop here is looking to see if it's saying, excuse me, while difficulty is not 1 and difficulty is not 2, keep performing these actions. And difficulty, now we had a default value for that if I remember correctly. Okay, where's difficulty? Difficulty, we set it to 0 at the very beginning. You see that up there, line 15? And down here, difficulty, since it's 0, we know it's not 1 and, okay, it's not 2. Okay, so that means this is true. Difficulty is not 1 or 2, or not 1 and 2. And down here in this code, we'll say, what level of difficulty would you like to enter? 1 for easy, 2 for hard. Okay, here again, we're going to use the input1 scanner, get an integer value for difficulty. And this loop will keep repeating until difficulty is going to be a 1 or 2. So if I put in a 1, that means that this condition is no longer true, okay? Because if difficulty equals 1, that means, okay, it doesn't mean it's not equal to 1. So if difficulty is 1, this condition is false right here, okay? Because difficulty is 1, and this is checking to see if it is not 1. That is a mouthful. It's a lot easier to think about than actually say while you're recording a video and drinking coffee and playing Fortnite on your cell phone at the same time. I'm kidding, I'm not playing Fortnite. Okay, down here, if difficulty, hey, you know, I wonder how long this video will last, and Fortnite would even be a game that people recognize in the future. Okay, food for thought. So if difficulty is equal to 1, we're going to take the difficulty word string and we're going to assign it the value called easy. All right, down here in the else section, which means difficulty got set to 2 because we had to get out of this with either a 1 or a 2. Okay, so I know it's going to be a 2. We'll set difficulty word to hard. Okay, those were your two choices. Now you might be thinking, how come you didn't put medium or something harder than hard, like mega hard or extremely hard? That's because I'm saving it for you to do on your extension. Down here, we print out, we say okay, we put the name, we use our fancy thing called concatenation. We tell how many rounds they're going to play and the difficulty. We set ready to play to true, and here we return the variable ready to play back to the location where it was called, which was right up here. So true is returned through the game setup method right here, which means this condition is true. So now we can go and perform this method right here. Okay, now know this. This just checked one time, okay? It came into this if method one time, or excuse me, yeah, this if condition, checked it one time, and then the program ran this whole set of code, okay? It's still on its first check. It's waiting for that return value because the focus of the computer came down here into this game setup method, okay? That's kind of what's going on there. Long story short. And the next video, I'm breaking these up. Everyone told me my videos were too long, so I'll make them a little bit shorter. So next video, we'll explain the play game method.